Now, whenever you think of miniature wargames, you most likely think of one single company, Games Workshop. They've got plenty of really popular and really fun wargames, such as 40k, Age of Sigmar, but amidst the pile of their lesser-known wargames, there is one that truly outshines the rest, but that unfortunately is seemingly being abandoned. I'm of course talking about Warcry. Now, some of you might have never heard of this game before, which is a real shame, but in short, it's a fast-paced skirmish game set in the universe of Age of Sigmar. Unlike army-sized games, where you might field over 100 models, in skirmish-sized games, you often use less than a dozen models in your band. This not only lowers the bar for entry dramatically, but it also reasonably allows you to experiment with lots of different factions, since painting 10 guys is a hell of a lot easier than painting an entire army. But now then, what makes Warcry so much fun, and why do I prefer it to so many other wargames, similar to Warcry? Well, I think you can really narrow it down to two simple points: the gameplay and the list building. Let's start with the gameplay. Now, every player builds a warband which has between 3 and 15 fighters. These fighters have got 2 actions each. They can perform every single time they activate. These actions are moving, attacking, disengaging, and waiting. Every single fighter in this game has an associated fighter card, where it details how well every fighter is at performing certain actions. Let's take a look at some Skaven fighter cards. As we can see, the clan rats are low in health, toughness, strength, attacks, and damage. This is to be expected, since the clan rats are in fact almost a third of the points of a rat ogre. The more powerful the fighter is, the more expensive it is. Every single fighter has a assigned warband. Let's continue with our rats, and they are obviously a part of the Skaven, and every faction has got unique abilities, reactions, and faction traits. At the beginning of each game, you decide on the objective and place the objective markers accordingly. You then roll a d6 for deployment, and at the beginning of the turn, you roll 6d6, called the initiative roll. This is one of the most important rolls in the game, because it not only decides who goes first, it also determines what abilities you are allowed to use that round. If the dice you rolled have got 2 of the same number, it's called a double. If it has got 3 of the same, it's called a triple, and if you somehow get a 4, it's called a quad. These dice are then kept on the side and used on different abilities during the game. For the most part, their strength directly correlates with the value. So quads tend to be the most powerful, while the abilities on double tend to be a lot less powerful. The person with the most singles gets the initiative. Every turn, everyone also gets something called a wild die. These are used to modify a dice roll into a higher one, aka turns triples into a quad, or make another single to hopefully get the initiative. You can also save them, so you can use even more wild dice in a later turn. All of these mechanics together makes for a really interesting and strategic start, despite it only being the initiative phase. Now, the 2 opponents alternate activating their fighters and doing different actions, moving, fighting, shooting, and stealing treasures, until everyone has now activated. Once everyone has activated, you go back and do the initiative roll once again, and a new turn start. A match typically lasts 4 to 5 turns depending on the mission. The games are surprisingly short. While sometimes a game might be as long as 2 hours, but for the most part, they typically last right around 1 hour, which is a really nice number to get multiple games in a single day, which allows for lots of experimenting with different lists. Well, speaking of different lists, let's talk about the list building. Now, the list building in Warcry is phenomenal. Why, you might ask? Well, it's because you can basically use the entire model range from Age of Sigmar in Warcry. Let's compare that to its direct competitor in 40k, Kill Team. Kill Team allows you to choose a pre-made selection of guys, and you have the option to choose if you want the specialist or the warrior option. This way of list building is fine. It works pretty well in Kill Team, but it's still really limiting. Let's say you want to play Space Marines, and you really want a Terminator in your list. Then there's no way of doing that. Same goes for basically the entire model range for Space Marines. You can choose between your basic intercessors and if you want a sniper or a guy in heavy armor. Meanwhile in Warcry, they just let you go absolutely mad if you wish. Let's say you're playing Skaven. There's nothing stopping you from just bringing 3 rat ogres and maybe a few clan rats and calling it a day. If you want to flood the board with 13 clan rats and drown your enemies in numbers, sure, do that instead. But maybe you're feeling really psychotic, so you bring a Mutalith Vortic Beast as a Skavens. So yeah, the unit selection is great here. You have a lot of options and you can bring some really fun stuff if you wish. But that's not the only thing that makes the list building so great. It's the customizability of every single unit. The blessings are small upgrades that you can buy with your spare points that brings small buffs such as +1 movement, 1 attack. But when you realize the true strength of some of these combos you can cook up, it's really disgusting. Let's use Vexmorth as an example. As we can see, he has really high damage, but he's very limited by the fact he only has 1 single attack. But we can change that. For 30 points, we can add the Blessing Ferocity for 1 extra attack. This basically doubles the damage that Vexmorth puts out every time it attacks. Now, this is just the beginning. If we use the ability Onslaught here, which will give us 1 extra attack every time we use it until the end of the activation, then its attack characteristics will go up to 3. And let's say, best case scenario, we get to attack twice. We will have put out a devastating 6 strength 10, 5-10 damage attacks by this previously 1 attack profile. This was just an example of some of the truly wild combos and how some units may seem pretty bad and on the surface, but if we give them enough support through abilities and upgrades, almost every single model will work decently enough. I really think that Warcry is a phenomenal wargame. It has almost everything you could want out of a wargame. Fast gameplay with meaningful decisions, and a great variety in strategies and objectives to achieve. While it might not be the most competitive game out there, it's definitely worth a shot. And the best part is that the rules are completely free to download, either from Warhammer community website or by going to Warcrier. Warcrier is an amazing website for Warcry. It has all of the rules, balance updates, and a list builder all in one. Like I said, if you got any Age of Sigmar or even old world models, you most likely have got everything you need to play the game. So, make sure to give it a try. Okay, bye!